Hello, welcome. This is a lovely workshop amongst friends, soon to be friends, at Reclaim Futures, where the title is the Museum of the Fossilized Internet. And there are no experts in this room, just people who want to learn and discuss and share what they know. So that's the idea of this. Just give like a brief sense of what we're gonna talk about and go in. So about myself, first just to say hello. My name's Michelle. I'm based in Berlin for the last decade or so. I come from kind of the free and open source software and culture background. Also really inspired by feminism and more recently by solar punk as a kind of positive way to imagine a digital future. And today, if you like to or have time, we don't need a lot of fancy materials, but if you do have a piece of paper, really any kind of paper, and any kind of writing material, a pen or pencil or whatever, we can use that, or you can also do this digitally. But if you do have that, then maybe if you need a minute to grab it, go ahead. But yeah, again, this is very lo-fi, low-tech activity. And yeah, so what we'll do is just, I think we've now introduced each other. I'll check and see if anyone else has joined by the time I finish doing this overview. But we'll just make sure everyone has said hello. I'm going to give you a little tour of this tiny virtual miniature museum. And then we'll be doing something that's more kind of interactive and based on your own kind of interests, around unearthing some artifacts from a desirable future. And we'll leave the workshop talking about where from here. So really no need to have any expertise or prepared anything for this. So I have to kind of change between modes to see if anyone new has joined our group yet. I think no. Okay. So I think everyone's introduced, unless someone's hidden that I can't see. No? And we've all said hello. Okay. Cool, then I will continue. That we've now, but I guess maybe we could add one. We didn't talk about this so much, but if there is an emoji or an emotion that describes how you feel about the future, I'd actually love to hear it, just as a fun way to hear how people are doing. Emily, I might start with you. But you have to unmute or press the space bar.
Yeah, the space bar doesn't work, I think, for me. But yeah, so I've put a bit the pensive smiley. I was a bit hesitating between this one and the worried one, like the one looking a bit scared and worried. So that's a bit how I feel about the future. Yeah, I'm not going to go into too much details. I guess.
That's perfect. Yemi,
I think I choose the same because for me the future is uncertain. Future could be positive or it could be negative, and I think that's the emoji. Yes, because there is so much, so many possibilities of the actualization of the future, but I don't know.
Cool, thank you. And Clark?
The facepalm emoji, because I feel like there's a lot of warning signs for the present and the past, I guess, and it's like we didn't plan it accordingly, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good too. And actually, yeah, and bonus, yeah, you figured out, Jamie, how to use the emojis even in your video. That's awesome. I think my emoji would be the one with the like hand here and the eyes looking up, like, you know, where's this, you know, intrigued, skeptical, but, you know, also, you know, interested in where our agency is and shaping it. So a little bit. All right, cool. Well, thank you. We'll keep going. Then, lovely to meet you all. Thank you for making it here. So kind of a guiding, I don't know, value or vision I have in what I'm going to share is a little bit around what does a just and sustainable internet for all look like? And how could we imagine it? And by imagining it, also think about what's needed to make that happen. You know, and acknowledging that we live in a time of crisis. I mean, this is only, I'm highlighting here the climate crisis and the internet's contributions to the carbon emissions in the world at 2%, which is, and rising, which is more than the airline industry. But of course, we know we're living in multiple crises. And so I also think it's important in a time of crisis to, as the theme of this workshop or the event is like reclaim our futures, right? Like the future's not to be one we are just beholden to, but actually, you know, for people who have, you know, shared values or want to make things better, like let's actually reclaim that, even in a time of crisis. So that's why I think it's so great we have this chance to kind of imagine and explore. And so here we go. So I wanted to introduce before, you know, there's very serious ways to talk about some of this stuff, but I actually thought we could do it in a very fun and artful way. So I'd like to introduce you to the Museum of the Fossilized Internet. This is a museum from the future, from the year 2050. And that's in 2050, we've actually decarbonized the internet. It no longer runs on fossil fuels, and we've been celebrating like 2 decades of a fossil-free internet. And this is you're at the museum opening, and we're kind of talking about looking at some of the major polluters in 2020 and being like, you know, gasping at the horrors of video streaming and ad tech, and kind of exploring a little bit what made the internet so fossil fuel dependent in the first place. Another quick thing to add about this museum is that it's tiny, it's from the future, and it's also miniature. It exists in real life in Berlin. It's about 1 meter by 1 meter, with little tiny handmade exhibition pieces that were done by an amazing woman named Gabby Ivins. And I worked with her and the artist Joanna Mole to kind of make this kind of design project or exploration project happen. But so we're now entering this tiny museum, and with their little tiny exhibits. And I want to walk you through some of the ones that I think are most interesting. So here we have a little mining rig. This is a Bitcoin mining rig. And actually, thanks to Bitcoin, we know a little bit more about how energy intensive the internet is, because the electricity required for Bitcoin alone has generated as much CO2 as Hamburg, the city, did last year. And now actually I need to update this stat because I think now it's around like the level of Iceland. So it's intense. Here are also some very tiny spam cans. And you know, there are billions of spam emails sent every year, and each message has a carbon footprint. And so these kinds of systems start to add up when you have, you know, billions of spammy emails. Oops. I'd also like to introduce you to this bookcase. This is an homage to an artwork by Joanna Mole called The Hidden Life of an Amazon User. And what you see here are tiny books that each volume represents the code that is required if you want to go on Amazon.com and order Jeff Bezos's autobiography. The Amazon site loads thousands and thousands of pages worth of code, different scripts, different trackers, different interfaces, all to order one book. And so this is actually, I think, a really powerful object, because it talks about all of this unseen computation that happens. Even something as simple as ordering a book can actually fill, 20 volumes worth of code, printed code. Our tour of this miniature museum continues to this object, which is about big banner ads and advertising online. So there was an estimated 7.4 trillion ads served each month, and that accounts for about 10% of the internet's carbon footprint. So maybe ad blocking is kind of a, climate activism, but there's so much of our online life that is, whether we're willing to or not, part of this ad ecosystem, and that ad ecosystem also has a huge computational and carbon cost. We also have streaming and VR and different ways of seeing and experiencing media, and a lot of that media still runs on coal power or other dirty sources. So here's a statistic about Despacito, which was viewed 5 billion times on YouTube, which requires the energy equivalent of 850,000 barrels of oil. So sometimes we're watching, especially during the pandemic, we're sitting at home and watching videos on end. And those also have, a footprint. This exhibition talks about training an AI model. And there's a lot of recent research around how energy intensive AI is, and can emit as much carbon as 5 cars in their lifetime just to train a single model. So this is, again, these are so many invisible costs, and we're only seeing the interest in having things like AI increase. So we need to be addressing also its environmental impact. So this concludes our little museum tour. You can check out more from the museum on this link. I'll also add it to the chat afterwards. But and there's a VR version as well if you want to see that. But I think this is more just to have a fun starting point to talk about some of these things, and to come at it in kind of an unexpected way, maybe with little miniature objects from the future. But yeah, I guess now moving into the more workshopy part, this is a chance to kind of think about, okay, a sustainable, equitable digital future. How are we going to get there? What does that look like? And I guess as kind of an idea that I'm holding on to is from this amazing Black feminist named Toni Cade Barra, who talked about make the revolution irresistible. I mean, we're not going to get anywhere if the future is, if everyone has to feel bad and guilty and terrible all the time. Like, let's make this future actually desirable. And so I guess kind of holding that irresistibility in mind, let's imagine and reclaim some irresistible futures. So do you all have your pens and paper? Here, I'm going to stop this being full screen so I can look at you all. So the idea now is that, we can either do this collaboratively, or you can kind of do this like on your own. We're small enough that it's really, I would say, up to you all. But like, you've just seen this museum, which is imagining we got to this place where the internet has been decarbonized. Now imagine there's like a room before that museum, which actually says like, how did we get here? Today is 2020. This museum is from the year 2050. Like, what happened in those 30 years? And maybe how could we tell that story of maybe actions that were taken, things that have changed, things that were built or not built. And so this is the opportunity with our paper to maybe first reflect a little bit. What does a sustainable and just internet mean to you? And then think about what would actually need to happen to make that a reality. And if that were a reality, what would be the things that that you would show future museum visitors so that they would understand what happened? Does that make sense to everybody? And I would say we'd actually maybe spend like 10 to 15 minutes, everyone just kind of thinking and writing, and then we'll share and discuss. But maybe just checking in before we do that, if that sounds good for everyone.
I'm gonna have a piece of paper.
Okay, cool. Oh yeah, go get your paper. see how everyone is. I'll just go on mute, but I'm here if you want to say anything or need anything. So we'll do maybe 2 more minutes and then share back. All right, thank you for drawing and thinking. Do you need a little more time? Or you're ready? Okay. It's hard to tell, we're not in person. Thank you. If you're comfortable with it, I thought maybe we could go around and share what people came up with and just hear back. I don't know if someone would like to go first.
Sure. All right.
Great.
So,
Go ahead.
I was thinking about John Lemaire's kind of like 10 reasons why you should delete social media, and his idea of like a data-based economy. And one thing he talks about in his lectures a lot is the cult of cyber capitalism, I guess is one way to put it, of like focused on like the great man theory of the late 90s and early 2000s of the internet, where there was the Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, who have definitely helped contributed in the advancement of the internet, but their systems of structure have been problematic. And so I picture them in the museum, as well as apps like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Amazon. And so I picture like a bin of old apps for people to look at and kind of, I guess, reminisce on. But I guess I was mostly focused on moving from a ego-based internet to an eco-based internet. That makes sense. So I was visual, and so I was more just drawing like
Oh, nice term.
like the problematic diagrams of the current internet as a hierarchy versus the internet of the future. It's pretty much all I have to share.
Does anyone want to? Yeah, thank you. Does anyone want to respond first to Clark? I love this from ego-based to eco-based. And I love also your idea of the museum having these great figures in there and the old apps. I love, I think I love that. Nice. Who would like to go next? Yeah, go ahead.
It's a hard question, because it's hard to thinking about a future free of any type of energy, and we have to realize that we need some kind of energy, and I'm thinking about a future in 2030, the Institute of the Decarbonizing Institute of the Cloud, yes, develop a technology
Nice.
in which two technologies. The first one is based in some kind of a sort of devices that collect energy directly from the clouds. Yes. What I'm thinking about a type of energy in which the clouds, the same clouds we send our information, bring us the energy we need to work that cloud. I made a simple simple drawing. The two clouds and the devices, some type of sensors or collectors that collect the energy. And another technology that institute developed the Decarbonizing Institute of the Cloud. It's a, you every person, every point of access have to generate the energy through people, the activities of the everyday generate the energy, yes, itself. For example, when you cook, the energy is collected to run the algorithms. Yes, the algorithms in general. And I think in a more authoritarian view, and is that in the same way you pay a bill for the energy you consume for a month, yes, you pay, or you'll pay in the 2040s for the energy your data stream consumes. Yes, because people are distant, or there are no direct connection and responsibility of the energy you consume. You only pay a service of internet, but you know pay the energy that internet uses, and that's the idea.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Nice one. We need to start this institute. These are great ideas. Thank you.
Okay.
Emily, would you like to share as well?
Yeah. My flatmate is playing piano. I hope you can't, like, it's not disturbing to you, sorry. So it was a bit hard
That
for me,
doesn't
I have
sound
to
bad. It
say.
sounds nice.
Okay. It was a bit hard for me. But I've done the exercise, so this is a bit like the thing I've drawn to put in the museum. So it's a big ball of thing. I don't know. It's not really something describable, but then there's a big explosion we could explain to people. And from this explosion, then we had to recreate, rethink, and reclaim collectively. So I don't know, maybe it's very naive, but I was thinking that the internet could become collectively owned space with like strong codes of conduct and make people feel more included and maybe more concerned about it, like not seeing it just as a tool, but something they can contribute to and help to regulate and control on a collective basis. And yeah, it was really hard to imagine this world where the internet would be completely different. I was imagining like more on how can I say, like practical basis, what we could do with this new form of internet and have it as a space that people can use to build tools to collaborate in a safe way, more maybe on community basis in your city, or like having ways to use it. It does exist, but it's not really the way we use it today. We use it like to other stuff, or like doing yeah. So what did I write? I wrote a lot, but I can't really read. I have bibliotheques online. Yeah, mostly this, like ways to organize safely and collaborate, and it was more a bit like how I see the internet, how it should be used. Yeah, but it's quite different from the other answers. So I think we've taken different roads.
That's okay. We're different people.
Yeah.
Good. Cool. Thank you.
It's okay.
Does anyone want to like comment or share back? Yeah. Good.
Emily thinks about a future in which internet is viewed as more in the relation or interaction between people more than the technology itself. Yes, and almost like thinking in analog internet or more locally internet.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Locally internet.
But is it not like, I don't know really anything about it, but is it not how it was at the very beginning? Like, I don't really know. I'm not really knowledge about that. But was it more in like a local basis, like the way you could connect to each other? And I don't know, maybe one of you can answer to that. So.
Yes.
I do think it was always the World Wide Web, but there was also local networks, and also there was a strong connection between having local services, local information, but also at the same time, I think there was this global, like a sense also of shared humanity, maybe. And I think that's also kind of an interesting tension, like at least when I think about this, is how do you have locally relevant, strong local networks while also seeing the shared humanity and sharing also on a, really on a planetary level. And so I think that's always, yeah, I also added here a little thing. I think there's a kind of movement of people who are building kind of tools and practices to get back in touch with some of that local versions, and they're called the decentralized web community. So I drew a little picture of them kind of like breaking up big tech, and we have more of this kind of decentralized web again, or a new, yeah. And I agree with you, Jamie. I was also thinking about, you know, our technology will require energy, and where does that energy come from? I mean, I think it should definitely be from a renewable resource. And so it becomes kind of fun to imagine there's some projects around having like solar powered websites and things like this. And so I had some things around that. I was also drawing, I just have very silly drawings, but little drawings about, you know, imagining, I think there's also an opportunity to have like career pathways, education, training, certification, jobs that are around people learning how to build a sustainable internet, right? Like this isn't only something we do as art projects or hobbies, but this becomes something that if you want to be a software engineer, for example, then you can specialize, or everyone gets training to like learn about the sustainability part of it, right? And I could imagine like the ways you would maybe incentivize that or institutionalize that. We also, we didn't add it in the museum, but I also would think we need something around climate denial and misinformation. I think one of the other issues we have is how internet platforms have spread misinformation about the climate crisis. And so there's something we could do around fighting misinformation, or, you know, fact checking, these sorts of things that would help keep people more informed about what's really happening. See, any other interesting, and then another, oh, yeah, go ahead.
It's a really interesting topic, and we can take many approaches, and one approach could be searching for a sustainable source of energy to maintain the architecture and the logics of internet, right? Just it is now. Yes, it could be one approach, and another approach could be rethinking in the values, in the social values. See, for example, as Emily says, thinking if internet as exist now can reimagine internet, not reimagine the source of energy of internet, but reimagine internet and thinking more locally and thinking the real needs. Yes, another approach. And one of those approaches is more systemic transformation. The other is more super changes in the surface, I think. And listening Michelle and thinking about some of devices that shows us the space, for example, the space our data is occupying, or the magnitude of the data of each one. What I say is, what if we have physical devices that make us visible the quantity of internet, because it's really abstract to us. I think 2 gigabytes, 2 terabytes is just a number. But if for example, you have in your department or in your bedroom, see, many globes, or many or some device that inflates of air, see, according to the data, the quantity of data, you're going to feel invaded for your own data. Yes, and maybe you are acting. You will be acting more consciousness with more consciousness. Yes, yes, I'm gonna to share that with you.
Yeah, I kind of join you also. Yeah, in this idea of rebuilding social values of the internet. Like often, I think something also we could have taken as a path is questioning why do we need the internet exactly? What is like fundamental into it? Why do we use it? And why is it important? And I think this question would maybe could help the people of the future to maybe reframe our use and then limit our use. And then, of course, as a butterfly effect, like not have the same amount of carbon emission and change our relation to this technology. So, yeah, I think questioning ourselves of the usage we make of it also is maybe a good path. Yeah.
Well, I love that. Yeah, not just assuming internet for internet's sake, but actually, discussing more deeply what is it about it that we want to preserve or have reclaim or have flourish. Yeah, that's great. You're all wonderful. Okay, this is a. Anything else on this part? There's just I have a few kind of like concluding thoughts and slides, and we can just and then end with also just like any other reflections or things. But does anyone want to share something right now? Okay. All right. So thank you for sharing and drawing and thinking. I just wanted to end with the last 10 minutes or so with like where from here. For me, a big reminder has been, the climate crisis is not just an issue. This is an entire era, and it will affect is affecting and will affect our lives and our children's lives and our grandchildren's lives. And, it cannot be ignored. And so I wanted to, I don't know if this is happening in the places where you all are, but at least in Germany, they're part of this really big global strike, part of the Fridays for Future movement. And they're going to have a day of action on the September 25th. So maybe there's something happening near you, or you can do something online. But I think we're also seeing the power of this mobilization as well. And anyway, I wanted to uplift that as a place to kind of get involved or connect to this issue. I was also talking with people about how to link these topics we have maybe in one area around data responsibility and better practices around data and how we want to organize our internet life with also climate responsibility. And I think more and more linking these two conversations is really important. And also, as you said, Emily, too, and getting back to the values underneath it that we're really trying to preserve or have flourish. I also wanted to share this community, Climate Action Tech. It's around 3,000 people who are kind of working in the tech sector, commercially or non-commercially, and are getting more involved in the climate crisis and thinking about how, just thinking about that intersection. And it's also kind of a learning community. Lots of people, nobody knows everything, and so it's like a nice chance to connect with others who are also trying to find their way. So I can really recommend this community. And this is some more solar punk art, but another idea I'm reconnecting with is the idea of the commons, and also, how do we take care of our public resources? The internet is a public resource, also our natural resources, and kind of revisiting and reclaiming ways to be better stewards of those things. So yeah, let's keep dreaming and building. And thank you for joining me on this workshop. These are some people who've helped contribute art and that sort of thing. But yeah, I thought that with that, I will stop sharing, and we could just if there's anything else people want to talk about or wrap up with, that would be then, we're at the end, again, then we'll be at the end of our workshop.
Thank you, Michelle, for that workshop, and thank you, Clark, Emily, for sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks to you all. I don't know if I have anything to add particular, but thank you for your time, Michelle, and thank you for preparing this for us.
Yeah, thank you for joining. Thank you for the ideas, and yeah, chance to think about this. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
I was just saying thank you. I honestly really enjoyed it.
There are many challenges.
Thank you.
Jamie, how is the situation? Can we a bit go out of the
Now
okay.
so yeah, let's hang up.
Is there also that type of mobilization, like climate strike for future and stuff like that in Colombia? How is do you see like young people mobilizing more and more? Or I know it's not always easy because of the political situation, but
I think there is a social mobilization or social consciousness, yes, because people or the new generations are more critic in many ways, but I think the expressions through social media about climate change are more that in the actual everyday, because people says many things and express through different medias, but in the everyday people are not very critic. Yes, yes. People says or people speak critically about many topics like climate changes, but people continues to buying things they don't need or something like that. And in the other way, uh, the political situation in Colombia is more relevant. People pay more attention to that topics, that issues, and things like inequality and corruption. Yes, and there are many issues, but I think slowly the new generations are changing their attitude, but there are many problems. For example, illegal illegal minery. How do you say carbon extraction?
Mining?
Yes, mining.
Oh, yeah.
Illegal mining, and it provokes uh, contamination of rivers, for example, and that these are problems, more systemic, yes, problems in which people, each person difficult can make a difference, because there are big companies and there are decisions of the politicians that makes that happen. It's a complex issue, but that's it.
yeah, I think it joins a bit what you said before, Michel. Find this quotation you had, like, make the revolution irresistible. We all know that there's a lot of work to do, and even though consciousness is rising up, still consumption of stuff, or like in the behaviors, we see that it's so slowly changing that it's what is a bit scary. So yeah, I think it's maybe like a good way to imagine the future also is like to try to work to make this this revolution irresistible altogether, like work on something collectively that we will make a big change. But then in local context, especially in the global south, it's issues are so huge. Other issues, of course, like the climate crisis is a big one, but yeah, as you named it, like there's so many other things that make people's lives extremely hard. It's difficult to ask to the whole world like to wake up, and yeah, of course, the global north should be showing the way or helping or like collectively working, but yeah, we're working slowly to it. Wish it was a bit quicker, but
Yeah.
Reimagine the future
Yeah,
is
that's hard. And I think
an important contribution, because people doesn't know alternatives, and if people know these another alternatives desirables, and maybe it could help.
I think so too. For me, I found it kind of liberating to realize a lot of the stories we have about how society works or how things are structured are also new, or they haven't been around forever in the history of humanity, and so they're also new stories you can tell and imagine. And I also found that like I've been involved in different kind of activism issues for a while, and it's can get stuck in saying no and just saying no to things, and that's, I mean, part of that's important too, but also what is it we're saying yes to, and like imagining that as something desirable and interesting and worthwhile. So yeah, let's think about what we want to say yes to, and tell those stories so we can imagine them for ourselves, see ourselves in them, and then with our friends and families and other people. And it's something to kind of keep learning about. I also wanted to just like share in our little circle here, like I think one keeps learning about these issues too. I think, for example, I was very unaware of how interrelated climate crisis and racial justice is until more recently, and then reading more about it and realizing, of course these things are linked. And I don't want to have a white eco-fascist climate movement. I want to have a diverse, racially just climate movement. And those are, you start to see how these things come together as well. So I think also, being curious and learning for ourselves and questioning and being inspired, and then we start and to not to despair, even when there's a lot. Nice. Cool. Does anyone want to say anything else before I don't know if another workshop will be in this room or not, so I don't want to overstay our welcome. But is anything else anyone wants to add or share? Cool. All right. Well, thank you all again for your time. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Maybe I'll see you in another. Thank you. Maybe see you in another room or activity. But yeah, thank you again, and have a good rest of your day. And let's keep dreaming and building.
Thank you, Michelle. Bye.
Bye,
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye.